Hello, everybody. Oh, let's try this again. Hello, everybody. My name is Sophia Nathlawi, author event coordinator here at the Pratt Library. Thank you for joining us this evening. One quick housekeeping reminder. The Ivy Bookshop is our book-selling partner this evening. If you have not purchased your books, please do so, either now, if you haven't already, or at the end of the program. There will be a book signing at the end of the program right outside the auditorium. So now is your time to get your book signed. And with that, on to tonight. Tonight, I'm happy to welcome Renee Watson to the Pratt Library to discuss her new book, Skin and Bones. At 40, Lena Baker is at a steady and stable moment in life. Between wine nights with her two best friends and her wedding just weeks away, she's happy in love and in friendship until a confession on her wedding day shifts her world. Unmoored and grieving a major loss, Lena finds herself trying to teach her daughter self-love while struggling to do so herself. Lena questions everything she's learned about dating, friendship, and motherhood. And through it all, she works tirelessly to bring the oft-forgotten Black history of Oregon to the masses, sidestepping her well-meaning coworkers that don't understand that their good intentions are often offensive and hurtful. Through Watson's poetic voice, Skin and Bones is a stirring exploration of who society makes space for and is ultimately a story of heartbreak and healing. Renee Watson will be joined in conversation this evening by author and well-read Black Girl founder, Glory Edom. Renee Watson is a #1 New York Times bestselling author. Over the past decade, she has authored 15 young adult books, which have collectively sold more than 1 million copies. She received a Coretta Scott King Award and a Newbery Honor for Piecing Me Together, and high praise for 1619 Project, Born on the Water. Watson is on the Council of Writers for the National Writing Project and is a member of the Academy of American Poets Education Advisory Council. She is also a writer in residence at the Solstice Low Residency MFA Creative Writing Program. Glory Edom is the founder of Well-Read Black Girl, a podcast and digital literacy platform that celebrates the uniqueness of Black literature and sisterhood. She edited the Well-Read Black Girl anthology, which was nominated for an NAACP Image Award and named a Best Book of the Year by Library Journal. Her latest book, On Girlhood, is a collection of groundbreaking short stories that explore the thin yet imperative line between Black girlhood and womanhood. The winner of the Innovators Award from the Los Angeles Times Book Prizes, Edom worked as a cultural practitioner over 10 years and serves on the board of Baldwin for the Arts. In Publisher Weekly's review of the book they wrote, YA author Watson makes her adult debut with a heartfelt exploration of a Black woman's reckoning with her identity and self-image. Watson widens the story's scope with lyrical prose. We are the splinter festering in the heart of this city, not easily removed. Readers will be glad to know Watson's defiant and loving protagonist. Kirkus Review relays that Watson is adept at negotiating the complicated terrain of family, friends, and romantic partnership as they intersect with racism. As Watson weaves bits of history into the narrative, Lena sees herself in the Black people who choose to settle in the whitest city in America, a city that is white by design, and looks to them to teach her how to live in a world not made for her, both tender and unflinching. And award-winning author Jacqueline Woodson called the book a beautifully poetic meditation on race, history, and parenthood. Renee Watson is brilliantly unafraid, and the reward of that fearlessness is on these pages. It is my great pleasure to introduce Renee Watson and Glory Edom.
All right. How's everyone doing? Let's give Renee another round of applause.
Hello, everyone. Good evening.
I'm so excited to be in Baltimore today talking to you. I absolutely love this book. Everything Sophia just said is absolutely true. This book is so beautiful. It hits motherhood, self-love, community. It's a cultural history as well. And I just want to commend you on creating this incredible adult novel.
Thank you.
Because we grown. So we're going to have some grown conversations.
Yes.
How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. Hi, everybody. Thank you all for being here. Yeah, I'm feeling good. And, I love you deep in real life. So it's an honor to be here with you, and also just fun to be able to talk about it, because I was trying not to give her any spoilers leading up to this. So she didn't know what the book was about, what was going to happen. So I'm excited we're really going to have a real conversation. We have not planned any of this.
No, not at all. We're gonna keep it real. And I just want to say we're also in Baltimore, the home of Lucille Clifton.
Yes.
And you do the beauty of opening this book with a Lucille Clifton quote.
Yes.
Would you do the honor of reading that for us?
Sure. So she is my favorite. Our lives are more than the days in them. Our lives are our line, and we go on. Lucille Clifton.
In this book, Lena goes on and on and on. She's a librarian. She's a person who loves words. She's questioning so many things. Can we start off talking about how you developed her as a character and what your inspirations for Lena were?
Sure. So I really was inspired by Lena many, many years ago. So in 2004, I wrote a one-act stage play. And the anchor of that play was this little girl who's playing with her dolls, and she's reenacting something that she's heard her mother and her mother's friends talk about and say. She's using foul language. She is carrying on. And her mother was like, girl, where you learn that language? And it's just like, you. And so that just has stayed in my mind for a really long time. We would perform. It was like a one act, a very short play that I would perform in Portland, Oregon, which is where I grew up. And all these years later, those characters stayed with me. And as I've been writing for young people, I just feel like I want to be in conversation now with the folks who are loving them and raising them and nurturing them about the same topic. So in thinking about Lena, I'm thinking about what does it mean for a woman who's in her 40s? So she's lived some life, but there's still some life to live. And if she's smart enough, she can correct some things and have a different kind of future for herself, and not pass on some of the things that are harmful and hurtful. So she's in that space where she's realizing, yeah, I love my mom, but some of the things she taught me, maybe I don't want to teach my daughter. Right. And then, I need the strength from my mother, and I very much need to lean into how she raised me to be strong and to hold on to myself. Mm-hmm. So she's negotiating what that means to hold on to a legacy, but also challenge it. Mm-hmm. I was just inspired. Really, it's interesting. I was inspired to write this adult character because of the young people that I work with and that are in my life. And thinking about, how I don't know if there are any educators in the room. Sometimes you're working with a young person and you're like, how did this child get this way? What is going on here? And I'm going to talk to your mother. We're going to have a meeting. Right. And you have the meeting, and then and you're like, okay, all right, well, got it. I understand a fuller picture. And in the same way, you can meet a child and be like, oh my goodness, who is raising you? Because you are about something. You are brilliant. You are, you know what I mean? So we are our legacy. We are whoever is raising us and teaching us and nurturing us. And so, yes, I just wanted to explore that and keep turning that over and over in the book. So the ancestors, then Lena's actual family, and then what she's giving to the future.
Yeah. It's also amazing because there's this aspect of Lena also learning from the things that she's reading.
Yes.
So there's on page 34, It's titled Books. It is no surprise to anyone who knew me as a child that I ended up working in the library. As an only child, books were my friends. They kept me company. In the summertime, before I was old enough to work, I spent hours devouring books at the North Portland Library. I loved nonfiction the most. Thought it was fascinating to learn about real people, real places, the obstacles they overcame to be great, the mistakes, the breakthroughs, the moments just before greatness. And that part really struck me because I feel like that is an ode to you as well, like how you because you are so well read and you like everything that you do comes out in the page, right? So I was thinking about why it was important for this character to be a librarian and to also do the learning and the unlearning in a library and the significance of that space.
So yeah, I wanted this character to be curious about her past, and really, if you are a Black person growing up in Portland, Oregon, you have to dig for that history, how we got there, how we were treated once we got there, and also how we really contributed and helped to build
Would
the
you
city.
say that in every
history
city though?
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
No.
Yes. I think though, growing up, I did feel this kind of extra erasure because we talk so much about the Great Migration from the South to the North.
Yes.
We don't talk a lot about Black folks in the Pacific Northwest.
Yes.
We do talk about the West, but Oregon and Washington are very different than California. And so even as a child, I just wanted to find my place in Black history beyond I wanted to find my place in the city that I was living in. And it was just very hard, partly because that history is hard.
Yeah.
So some of the folks who had lived through some things just didn't want to talk about it. And it certainly wasn't in a history book.
Yeah.
So as I have gotten older, I've just done a lot of research and digging. But a lot of it I did as I was writing. It's not like I knew this and was just putting it in the book. I was Lena trying to wait, what happened, and trying to find things and being so uplifted once I found us in the city.
And it reads that way. We were talking a bit about stage, like the vignettes you have, as I was reading it, I felt like I was discovering it with you. Like it felt like a very intentional structure to the book where you have these moments where you're really in Lena's interior mind.
Yes.
Like you're going along with her, you're thinking the same things, you're discovering the same things at the same time. How, and forgive me because I've asked you this backstage, but how did you decide to create the vignettes? Did it come first? Did you find the research and then write around that? Or how did you structure it? Because it just comes across very beautifully.
So first I was trying to just find Lena's voice. How does she talk? What is the cadence of her words, her sentences? And then in wanting the history to be on the page and not just something she's doing, I wanted you to be researching with her. And as she's learning, the reader is learning. So that needed to be in there, but I didn't want it to feel weighted down by just a lot of words. So vignettes, and I think the poet in me too, I write very concisely anyway. So it felt like the history could be these snapshots and just kind of moments of history. And then that felt a little too oh, this is the story and this is the history. So then I was I got to blend it in all the way. Yeah. So I decided to have her also think about definitions. She works in a library. She loves books. She loves words. So when she hears a word like forgiveness, she's thinking, what does it really mean? And there's a definition that will happen in the book that you'll see. And then she goes throughout her day and she hears somebody say something offensive, like, oh, you're an obese woman. Obese? What are you really saying about my body? And then she unpacks that word. And I think a lot of us think that way. I don't know that we all think in full sentences and full paragraphs all the time. Life kind of happens in these snapshots where we're trying to focus at work, but we're thinking about our grocery list. We're thinking about what we have to do tomorrow. We're replaying that conversation of what we wish we would have said. All of that is in your brain all at once. And so I wanted that to be what you're seeing Lena hold. She is a big Black woman growing up in a very white city. Yeah. And so she's holding a lot. And the things that she can't say, I still wanted you all to know that she's thinking and feeling. Yeah. If that makes sense.
No, it makes absolute sense. And you can feel that as a reader. I would love to hear, because we're going to make some space and time for you to read throughout this conversation. And I wanted to know if you could just talk about this idea of taking up space in the body and the weight that you carry. Could you read from?
Sure, I'll read. It's right from the beginning.
Yeah.
And I'll say this too. I wanted the book to kind of be a metaphor for Lena's body. So it's weighted. The words are moved in away from the margins because I wanted a Black woman to take center stage and actually be centered. And to have that feeling of what it's like to squeeze into a space not made for you. So if you have the book, you'll notice that the lines are kind of inward. And I did that on purpose. So I'm reading right from the beginning, but I'm skipping around. This is the weight I carry. I do not want to die fat. There would no doubt be whispers at the repast. It's too bad she didn't take better care of herself. They will speculate, assume, diabetes, heart attack. If I die fat, I hope I die in a car accident or go missing and turn up bloated and bloodied in a river. No one will mention my weight then. I will die without conversation about the obesity epidemic, and my family and friends can grieve without the added guilt from flashbacks of every time they wanted to say something about the pounds I was putting on and on, but didn't. Because here's the thing, I am not thick or big-boned or voluptuous. I am fat, obese, morbidly obese. That's what the nurse just typed into my chart. She is a wafer of a woman. The kind of woman that looks like she'll fall over should a big wind blow. This is the woman typing in the word morbid to describe my body. Everything about me is big and black. Big and majestic like the ocean, every bit of me hard to contain. My belly spills over and so do my tears and so does my joy, and every family recipe and every heartache and every weekend spent at seaside beaches all here with me, heavy. It's all here sitting on the thinnest tissue paper, holding all this blackness, holding all this bigness. I feel the tissue paper rip under me, wonder why they don't make it more sturdy. I pull the too small gown together as best I can. It is tight around my flabby arms and doesn't cover my breast or my stretch-marked stomach. I might as well be sitting here naked. You would think that doctors' offices would have large robes for their patients. Don't patients come in all sizes? The nurse doesn't realize that I can see what she's typed. She enters the word so matter of fact. And in the space for more notes, she types, morbidly obese, but seems happy, dressed well, good hygiene. I stare at the word but, morbidly obese, but. She types again, but I look away. Can I take the urine sample now? I really have to go. I've been holding it. Oh, we'll get to that. Just a moment. First, I need to take your blood pressure and your temperature. She checks my pressure. My arm tightens to the point it feels like it's going to explode. And then when she lets the air out, my arm relaxes. Wow, pretty great numbers, she says, like she is surprised, like she expected there to be an issue. Okay, I'm gonna get the doctor now. Give her just a moment. While I wait, I fidget with the platinum miracle on my left hand. 2 more weeks and I'll be Miss Lena Wilson, wife of Malcolm Wilson. God, please let this bladder infection pass quickly. I've got a honeymoon to Hawaii to be ready for. I twist the ring, trace the diamond with the tip of my finger. That skinny nurse didn't have a ring on. I hate that I just had that thought. I do not want to wear this engagement ring like an Olympic medal, hard fought for, hard won. But it does feel like an accomplishment. I did work for this, for us. After everything I went through with Brian, the on again, off again, so much heartbreak, heart healing, finally I am here. Malcolm is my prize and I am his. I look down at my dangling feet, thinking about the words the nurse used to describe me. Morbidly obese, but seems happy, dressed well, good hygiene. Glad I got that pedicure yesterday. My toes are painted a bright cantaloupe color. My heels are smooth and silky. I always leave the house casket ready. I got that from Mom, who everyone calls honey. Whenever I'd leave the house, she'd ask, you got on clean clothes? And I knew she was not talking about my shirt or jeans or socks. She was talking about my bra and panties. If you get in a car accident, you don't want to be unladylike when the paramedics come. Always a lesson from Honey and Grandma about taking care of myself, but never for myself. Just when I decide to get a cup and go to the bathroom on my own, the doctor knocks, comes in. "And what brings you here today, Lena?" she asked, not looking at me. She scrolls through my file, reading while I talk. "I think I have a bladder infection. I get them often, so I kind of know the symptoms." "Okay, well, I'd like to check your blood sugar. Have you ever been tested for diabetes?" "No, I haven't. But today I'm here for, I think I have a bladder infection. And I came ready to take the urine sample. So if we can get that going, that would be great because I really have to go." "Yes, we'll get to that, but I need to check a few other things first. A woman your size, it could be something else." She says she needs to review my family history. I want to tell her what's not on that chart. She wants medical history, physical ailments, but I think she should know it all. The almost dead, the died too soons, the divorces and sage loves, the births, rebirths, stillbirths, the car accidents, graduations, holiday dinners, the first days of school, last days of childhood, every birthday, every happy hour, every 4th of July picnic at Blue Lake Park. She asked for my family history. I could tell her, but I know better. I'm just going to read a little bit more. The non-wafer, non-morbid woman leaves, comes back with a plastic cup. Finally, the urine sample. Then waiting and waiting. Another knock and the words, "Bladder infection, antibiotics." "And the blood sugar?" I ask. "Normal, but you need to be careful carrying all that weight. I recommend trying to lose at least 5 to 10% of your body weight, and then we can reassess and put you on a weight loss plan." My doctor wants to put me on a weight loss plan, even though my test results are normal. Before she leaves the room, she offers an affirmation. "You know," she starts, "you are a beautiful woman. I hope you know that. Your skin, your hair, just gorgeous." I smile, kind of. Yes, this is a smile, a thank you. I open my mouth to say something, to correct her, scold her, to ask why she felt the need to tell me that she thinks I am pretty. But my words do not come. Only her words are here. They are hanging in the stale, sanitized room. When I leave, they come with me. Words are like that. They follow, linger, stay a while. Here I am, carrying what is not mine, heavy.
So good. As you heard, the audience, and I'm sure people watching at home were like, yes, and in agreement. Being in the hospital room with Lena, understanding that condescending response, that disregard, the heaviness of those words, and the fact that she had to walk out still feeling that. You illustrated so vividly, and you put us in the room. And that opens the book. That's chapter one, right? So take us there. Why was it essential to have this scene, especially in the doctor's office, showing that she's beautiful, regal, about to be married, the prize, all these things, but at the same time, has to be has to contend with this disrespect.
I wanted y'all to meet her how it really is.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a couple of things. I think the craft and the writer part of me is like, the poet in me is get to the heart of a matter quickly. I don't need to describe the trees and the river and I just want you to get to the emotion of what she's feeling. But also I wanted to think about what is it like to meet Lena and judge her? Are you judging her with this doctor? Are you the person that's looking at a big person and wondering what health issues they probably have? Like, I just wanted the reader to also feel whether you are relating to Lena or maybe the doctor, what it's like to step into a space and know that people have assumptions about you.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's based off of where you're from, sometimes it's based off of what you look like, but always people try to sum you up, right?
Yeah.
And it's true. I can look out at you all. I get a sense of your style by what you're wearing and how fly your hair is and all that, the colors we wear. We tell a lot about ourselves in that way. But as Lena was saying, I don't know your family recipes that have been passed down generation after generation. I don't know what fears you hold, who you love, who loves you back. All of that is in the room too.
Right.
And so Lena is always carrying all of that. She's carrying who she really is, and then the weight of who people think that she is, or what they think she's going through. And I just wanted you to meet that up front, because that is very much what the book is about.
Yeah.
So I didn't want any surprises later. Like, this is what we're talking about, y'all.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
why.
it was immediate, but it was also just refreshing to be like hit with the truth. Like, this is Lena's truth. And not only is she going to take you into her mind, but she's bringing her family along too. So, in the passage, she mentions her grandmother, she mentions her mother, honey, like she's talking about the recipes and the history and all the things that are in between of her in her life that the doctor and other people that might be judging her can't see. Can we talk about the relationships with her mother and the idea of mothering in general, because I feel like that's also a through line throughout the book, that the mothering of yourself and loving yourself, of taking care of children, of taking care of elders, that show comes up again and again.
So I would not be who I am without the women who raised me and loved me, and the women who love me now, right? So I'm anchored by the women in my family who are no longer here on earth. And then I'm anchored by my friends who love me deeply. And so I wanted Lena to have that community of women to hold her up and keep her stable when this world is rocky and shifting her to and fro. And then I was thinking of this idea again of like, what do we inherit and what do we pass down? I was very critical of some of the adults in my life when I was all of 14 years old. I had a lot to say about my, youth pastor who maybe I thought was a little hypocritical, and the pastor, and I had a lot to say about the teachers at my school, and I was very aware of who I thought was doing their job right. And then I turned 25 and I was the mentor and I was the leader at the church. And I was like, oh, 25, what did they know? Like, how are they mentoring and leading? And I think I developed a lot more grace for folks, and realizing that, yes, you always have something to give. You can give something and you're always learning. And so Lena is fine because she's a mom now. She is like, oh, my mother did a lot. She's appreciating some things that she maybe took for granted and having to forgive some things that she was critical of, because now she's realizing how hard it is to love and nurture and raise a child. And that you are afraid of making mistakes, and you do make mistakes. And what do you do when you make those mistakes? I think that's the thing she wants to change the most is, okay, I can accept that this is going to be messy. But if there's a mess, how do I clean it up and own it, and not just, well, you'll be all right. I was all right. My mama made a mess of me too. Like, okay, well, can we have some real conversations and love each other and forgive each other and apologize? So she's in that space. Yeah.
Well, there's so many scenes where that's illustrated too. And I think I was surprised that, well, maybe not surprised, but you're just so vulnerable on the page when it comes to that. Where are you pulling from? Like, is this something like from your personal experience, or is this something that like you knew you wanted to touch on? How do I say? Just the openness of being a Black woman, being in the body that she's in, and embracing her body too. Like, how are you deciding on what direction? Because there's so many things that are happening in the novel.
So it is truly not my story. And her mother is not like my mother. And still it is my story. It's one of those, like, I understand what Lena feels. And a lot of the characters, sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm just like Aspen here, one of her best friends. Or I'm like, I relate to what my characters are going through. But the practical stuff of like the plot and the the situations are not necessarily mine. So I think I was just pulling from that. I was pulling from listening to women. I'm an aunt. I'm a teacher. I'm a godmother. I have worked with young people for a long time. And I started working whatever grade. So even in high school, I was mentoring middle school students. And then in college, so I've always been in that kind of like, I still have a lot to learn, but I'm giving. So I have a lot of, I think a lot of that shows up on the page. Is sometimes I had all the wisdom to share, and I could, I look at some of my students, former students now, and I'm like, oh, I'm so proud of them, and we could celebrate who they've become. And then there's some people I'm like, I'm so worried about them. And what could we have done differently with that child? And I don't know the answer to that, right? And so Lena she's thinking about all of that. And of course I know what it's like to be a big woman, to be dark skinned, I am from Portland, that's where I grew up. So all of that I'm pulling from my real experiences, the experiences that my nieces and nephews go through. I think to be a good writer, you have to be a good listener. And listening is observing the world, right? And just paying attention to what is going on, paying attention to how people talk. Like what we say with our words, but what we really say with our bodies. So I'm just kind of, as a writer, listening and bringing all of that to the page. This story, like I said, I started it in 2004. So it's been with me for a long time, simmering on the back burner. Just soaking up all those spices and just slow cooking. And I think that is what maybe you're feeling. It's just been a long time to gather and for me to grow up.
I think I got the word. What I was trying to articulate is the universality. It feels so universal. Like it felt like I'm not from Portland. When I was reading it, I could relate to so many things that she was experiencing just being a Black woman.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And it's just I felt like I was constantly seeing glimmers and just moments of myself on the page, but me and Lena are completely different.
Yeah, well, I think that's why we have all those cliches about stories bring us together and we're all just human and all those things that sometimes are okay, please stop saying that. Right. But the truth of it is, right, that even though we can come from different places, different decades, all of that, at the core, we know what it is like to be dismissed. We know what it's like to be seen and validated. We know what it's like to have that belly aching laugh when as soon as you see your girl, it's gonna be a good time. Right. I don't even know what we're about to do. But we about to, you know what I mean? That she has a crew. So it's not all heavy and serious and sad. She has a crew. They laugh. They have their wine nights where they drink wine and whine about what's happening in their life.
Let's go to the friends. Let's get to that part too, because they are so they're so wonderful. They have this trio of just goodness and joy. So tell us about why that was essential to be a part of this story too.
First, I just wanted to really have 3 big Black women be center stage. So all the friends are dark skinned. All of them are big and they're different sizes within bigness, but all of them are shopping at plus size stores. Okay. Because I just didn't want Lena to be the only one, because then it becomes she's telling a story for all big. So I wanted the nuances of that to be in there. And just, again, I just feel like the bonds of women loving each other, especially, and deep friendship, when you can just be quiet together, that kind of friendship where you don't have to say anything, that's what they have. And because of all the other things she's going through, she needed that. So yeah, I like a cast. I like to write. If anyone's familiar with I love a cast of characters. I think to really get to know me, you have to know my sisters. To get to know me, you have to understand Portland, Oregon, because that is going to help you understand my personality and who I am. I'm the youngest of 5. And a lot of, because of that, I show up in the world a certain way. And so for Lena, for the reader to get to know her, you have to have this backstory of the friendship and how she grew up. She's a pastor's daughter. She's a PK. And also all of that is, you have to know that to understand why she's making some of the decisions she makes.
It's all part of its important aspects of her backstory. So can I invite you to read about friendship.
Sure. We have little ones, so I'm going to read a
Oh,
different scene
do we
from
have
the one we talked. I see them.
Oh, okay.
Hi.
Okay.
I
Okay.
see
Oh,
you, girl.
I missed it. I missed
We're
it.
not going to read that,
Okay, we
that
won't
scene,
get
but we
too
will
ra-
read a different one.
We
I
won't
got
get
one.
too racy. We'll be appropriate since children are in the audience.
So this is their origin story. They grew up all in the same church. Their mamas were on the front row of this church, rocking their babies. They're all turning 40 this year.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just a little glimmer of how they became best friends. Origin story. Our solidarity was cemented the day we took a field trip to the zoo in the 5th grade. The school bus was loud and rowdy and everything a school bus should be. A boy at the back of the bus named Dion called Aspen asphalt because of her dark skin. We could barely spell asphalt, but we knew it was not a compliment, especially when all of Dion's sidekicks chimed in with oohs and ahs and said, "That's a sting, he's stinging." Kendra started up first, got all up in Dion's face and told him someone with teeth that bucked and shoes that raggedy shouldn't be talking about nobody. And I reminded him that his mama and sisters were dark just like Aspen. So what was he even saying? We told Aspen not to worry about that buck-toothed, raggedy shoe-wearing boy and said, "Come sit with us." And somehow we made room for her for the three of us on that green school bus seat. The pleather was sweaty and clinging to the bare parts of our legs because we were wearing shorts. When we got to the zoo, we stuck together all day. And Kendra realized she forgot her lunch. Aspen and I shared our lunches our mothers made. We never declared it, never had BFF bracelets, but we knew. We'd always be there for each other. We knew, always. Thank you. So I want to say too, so they are friends and they love each other, but there's also tension. They're three Black women in white Portland, so they're just compared a lot. The smart one, the funny one, the conservative one, and because of their bodies, they're compared a lot. So sometimes Aspen, she's a little jealous maybe of Kendra because Kendra is getting married and she's not. How is that possible? I'm thinner than you. I'm the one who, there's a lot of little, and she doesn't just flat out say that, but you get a sense that even though they love each other and even though they show up for each other, that there's still a little bit of just the realness of women sometimes who are always compared to each other, internalizing some of those messages that people put on their friendship, I think, too. The judgment of, or you're a pastor's daughter, how could you have had a child out of wedlock? So there's a little bit of that happening in their friendship too.
I'm glad you took it to the internal aspect or the bias that you might have that you might not even know you have,
Yes.
right? Like there's a lot of moments where again we're like we're going along with Lena, we're thinking the same things she's thinking, but we're also seeing projections, and judgments that people are making. We talked a little about this earlier. Was there something larger you were trying to say about like Black women's space in society, or like how we break those barriers or those definitions and rise above those things?
I don't know that I was trying to say anything except that is what we do.
Yeah.
And just to show how to survive a world that's not made for you.
Yes.
I think many of the characters are showing a way, not the way, right? I don't have answers, but I do think the characters are showing us how one can survive in a world that's trying to break you. How do you show up in your family, or hopefully your neighborhood, or your some community that loves you and nurtures you as a child? You're brilliant, you're beautiful, you can do anything. We say that. And then our babies go out to the world, we go out into the world, and we are told, actually, no, you're not as smart as you think you are. You're not as beautiful as you. And so what is the truth, right? So the women are trying to hold on to the truth that they actually know. In a world that's trying to tell them otherwise. And so they have each other, they have their ancestors, they're figuring out how to make sure that their children can hold on to that same dignity, pride, self-love, and how they can point it out in each other. I think sometimes if you can't see it in yourself, it's good to have someone who sees it in you and can remind you of who you really are, even when you failed and have messed up, or you've just had the worst breakup ever, or something has happened and it can be actually true that you did the wrong thing, right? It's not always, I didn't do anything wrong and things are just happening to me. No, sometimes there's a consequence.
Right.
But you can still be loved. Like, we don't have to throw people away because of that,
Yeah.
right? And so it's also, Lena, learning who is worth investing in. Like, who do I choose to forgive and be in life with? And then, yes, there are some people I need to let go of.
Yeah.
And I think that's a hard lesson, especially for women. I think it's hard for
Especially at
Black
40.
women. And at 40, yeah, it's just really hard to say, I'm choosing me. Or it is also hard to say, I'm going to stick with this.
Yeah.
Even if maybe my friends don't want me to, or my reputation, or what people are going to say, but I'm going to choose to love, or I'm going to choose to let go. Those are hard decisions to make either way.
Yeah.
And so Lena's learning how to do all of that while working and mothering and just also trying to have a little fun, a little wine.
A little wine time. We were talking about the idea. I recently turned 40, and that like it's such a threshold of just like all the things that came before and all the life you have left to live, right? You were saying that earlier on. It just feels so monumental. And I was very appreciative that you created this character who was turning 40, because you don't often see that in contemporary literature. Like, everyone is like young and like just graduated
At the beginning.
And it's like nice to be like in the middle.
Yeah,
you know?
she's lived some life. And there's dating, like, also all of them are 40, and they're, I mean, Lena is engaged, but her two friends are single. And I don't often see those stories either. We have a lot of stories, TV shows, movies about single folks who are in their 20s or maybe their 30s. But what is it like when you know everybody is like, so when are you gonna?
And you haven't been married.
You know,
They're like, is something wrong? What happened? You know what I mean?
Or you, all right, you keep focusing on that career, then you're never gonna, just all the things. At 40, she owns a home, but she's single. So does that mean she can't, all of that. I wanted that to be on the page, so that the 40 somethings could be seen and have something to hold on to too.
Yes.
Yeah.
We definitely felt seen. There was recently I was watching something online, and a young woman was going on about how she's like done her self-healing. She has a great job. She's healthy. She's doing all these things, but she doesn't have a partner to share all these things with. And one of the responses were like, just because you do all those things, not having a relationship isn't a punishment. Right? Like you can do all those things, but it's not a reward to be in a relationship. It's just the outcome of life. Like you can just have to go and continue.
And there are most likely other relationships you have that
Exactly.
are fulfilling
Exactly.
and worthwhile. Right.
Right.
And so, I think that is also very much what's happening in the story too, is like, I'm not going to settle just so that I can say I have a partner.
Right.
How do I show up for myself? And then if they want to show up and be their best selves, great.
Yeah.
If not, then I will be single. And that's, she's,
it's
figuring that out.
Yeah. It's like this reframing in your novel, but also in real life, that like the relationship isn't the end all be all. It's like part of just like how everything else is interconnected in your life.
And that it's work, even if you have that great relationship.
Yes.
It is, everything is work. And so it could be the prize, but it's also something you're going to have to continue to nurture and pour into.
And cultivate. Yeah. I've just been having such a wonderful time hearing your beautiful voice. I'd love to if you could do one more reading about the neighborhood. And just because I think that is so crucial to the story too, this idea of, the changing neighborhood, gentrification, and what that means for young people like Lena, young 40-year-olds like Lena.
Okay. Neighborhoods. There has to be an MLK Boulevard, for that is the artery. And also a wing spot where the chicken is worth standing in line for. And also a Caribbean spot that might be open, might not. That might have jerk chicken, might not. And a hair salon where women stop by who don't even need their hair done. Just come to say hello, catch up on the latest gossip. And you might see hair weave blowing down the streets, swirling with the fallen leaves, tangled with deferred dreams, blowing right past the check cashing spot in the liquor store. And also the old drunk who is not as mean or scary as you first thought. And the old woman on her porch, nosy and all-knowing, keeping the toll of births and deaths and the comings and goings of the block. There is music always, from the church house, the club, a car whose bass is so strong the cement quakes. And there are fireworks just because. Just before and just after the 4th of July, just before and just after Labor Day. There is always, always yellow crime tape somewhere, blowing in the wind like ribbon dancing from a little girl's ponytails. And makeshift memorials, burned out candles, dried flowers, and faded photos set up in the corner stores, under a tree, on a chain link fence to honor the dead. And there are car washes and parking lots that are raising funds for a church's youth group, and a woman buying chocolate bars for $1 telling a child, keep the candy. I just wanted to support your cause. And women tell each other, watch out for him. Don't walk down that block at night. And girl, did you know Safeway is having a sale on eggs? And girl, you know so-and-so is single now. And girl, you know so-and-so got up out of here and made something of himself. And you always know a newcomer, an outsider, because they walk past without speaking, and the elders clear their throats, say, good morning. Teach folks that round here, we speak. Round here, we love.
Okay, that call and response. You know?
Listen, Baltimore, let me tell you something. I grew up in a Baptist church, and I appreciate that y'all know how to be in audience. Thank you for being with me tonight.
I love that passage because literally that could be DC, Baltimore, Portland, Detroit, Cleveland, it's like name the city. And it was just so clear, so vivid. And every page is like that. Every sentence is like that. It evokes an image in the reader's mind of something they feel familiar with, something they love, a person, a moment, a memory. It just feels so beautiful. And I am hoping this form turns into another medium, whether it's a play or a film or a series. Can we imagine a little bit before we take questions? Yeah. So if this was a series,
my goodness,
you know, who we casted?
I didn't know you were going to ask me that. I thought we were just going to imagine and dream it up.
We
I got to put names out there for real.
You know.
Okay. I mean, Davine Joy. Danielle Brooks. I mean, those are the first names that come to mind for sure. Yeah, I mean, I can have a whole list, but those two women are at the top of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Agreed. And the woman in the front row.
And somebody agrees. Somebody agreed with me. Yes. So yeah, I would love for that to happen for sure.
Yes. I could just, especially on stage, like I could see this on stage as well. Just like the scenes. It just is just so beautiful. We have time for questions in the audience. So if you have a question, there's 2 mics here. We see someone coming on up.
We have 10 minutes for questions. So if you have a question, come on up to where I am at or to where the other mic is at on the other side of the auditorium and ask your queries.
Wow, such a delightful reading. Thank you so much. I'm new to your writing style and so evocative. It was great. Thank you so much. And so Mike, I have two-part question. The first question is, what was your biggest, did you notice a big transition from writing for young adults to adults? Like, was that a thing for you? How did that manifest itself for you? And then my other question is just, what is it like to write 15 books, 16 books? Like, that's so amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So the biggest difference for me writing for adults is that I could be more vulnerable on the page, meaning I didn't have to worry so much about closure and making sure that the young person is not being re-traumatized. Like I try to be very thoughtful when I'm writing. young adult and middle grade for that, for obvious reasons. So I think I was able to go places in this book that I would not maybe go in YA. And the ending, I think I also wasn't so worried about tying up every little thing, because an adult reader can know that, okay, this character is going to be fine. I don't need to know exactly how it works out, type of thing. So I think that might have been the biggest difference. And I played around a lot more with format. I just gave myself permission to experiment more. And how does it feel to have written 15 books? I'm a storyteller, and I try to just let the stories be what they want to be. So I'm proud that I've written that many books, but I don't think about it often. I just really am a writer. And it's funny to me sometimes, because I feel like we don't ask doctors perform many surgeries, and I don't know if anyone's counting them. So I just don't even think about how many books I have. I literally am just creating and making. So I don't know. I'm proud of that, and I'm really proud that I get to write and do this for a living. It's not lost on me that people have trusted me with their children. Like, a book is, I am spending time with your child, and you trust me to do that, and that feels like a great honor.
I'm going to just add 2 more parts. You also are very, very funny, which I knew that in your YA and your children's. So I was like, oh, Renee is funny. She got some jokes. There's some parts in here I'm like, oh, you're funny, honey.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Who knew?
Okay, I might have a question, but I have 2 comments. Glory, thank you so much for establishing Well-Read Black Girls.
Yes,
I'm living in Baltimore, but I'm still a member of the Portland group, which means that, like, once a month, when they're talking at 7:00 and drinking wine, I'm up at 10 o'clock trying to stay awake. But what has struck me, I'm a librarian, so I can read by myself, but that the book club has created a place where, especially a lot of young Black women who are coming to Portland, which is like the whitest city in the world, from many other places, and it gives them a chance to build community. Most of them are younger, but there are 3 of us, 3 librarians, but we're the elders, and we can share our perspective on things. So I just want you to know what you have done is probably even more important than you realize. Okay, now Miss Renee. Thank you so much for focusing on a library. Yes, I am a librarian. But the thing is, besides being one of the last bastions of democracy in this country, libraries also provide a refuge. I was raised in it, Pratt, from story time down the bottom to winking and blinking in the sociology department when I was in high school. And, and this is the place that made me want to be a librarian. But then I went out and worked in the, guess what? North Portland branch of the Multnomah County Public Library. And that job was a reference, and it showed what books and reading and thinking, means. So I just thank you both. And Renee, I am so happy that the same poetic fiction that you offer to us through your young adult books, that you are offering to us in this book. Yes. It is always a pleasure. And I do have a question. What else? No, and I'm gonna sit down. But what else are you doing? Because you're always doing something. So what's next for you?
What is next for me? So I'm on tour, so I don't know. What is next for me? More traveling, more celebrating Skin and Bones. I also have a picture book that came out on the same day. Summer is here. So both ends of the spectrum, right? The littles. It's the most simple picture book I've written about the first day of summer and just Black joy, her loving the first day of summer. And then the next book that will be published, I have a middle grade novel that comes out in February. And it deals with grief, and it's told in verse.
Hi. Trying to remember my question.
Uh-oh.
So the previous questioners talked about community. You started off talking about the community of the women in the book, the community that you came from. Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit more about how do we write in community? Because I know you had a project in New York. I don't think you still have it in that form, but what ways are you working in community to help us write and tell our stories?
Thank you for that question. I mean, I feel like Glory is the queen of community and bringing us together to read. I personally have, so this is what we do, right? We make a way. So I might not have the money to go on a fancy retreat and go away for months and write. I don't have that time or the resources, but I can hook up with a friend, and we say, okay, for 2 days, we're just going to lock ourselves away and we're going to create. And I'm pointing to a real friend. Chandra Strickland is a dear friend of mine. My very first book, she illustrated, and we became fast friends from that. And so we've made up our own retreat, our personal time to create. And we are so serious. We, in silence or music is on, we really create, and then we feast in the evening and talk and catch up. So I try to have community that way. Highlights Foundation, I have a scholarship there for any Black women writers. There's a scholarship for you to go and have a retreat and write and spend time on their campus. So yeah, I'm always thinking of how can I build small community. Sometimes we think of community has to be so big, but it can also be being intentional with the people who are already in your life and just checking in. I had a friend who knits, and we would go, this is when I was working full time. After work, I could not go straight home because I wasn't going to write. I was tired. I was going to watch Scandal. So nothing productive was going to happen. So I would go home. I would go to a coffee shop and meet her. She'd be knitting on her projects, and she would sell them, and I would be writing. And that was my writer community. So just make it happen. Find the folks who are makers and doers, even if they're not making and doing what you do, and be together and love each other and show up for each other when it's not just about the work.
Yes.
Right? So I don't only want friends who are with me for the hype of a book and all the excitement. There's been some lows, and that's when you need your community the most. It's easy to find the folks when it's about the awards and the book tours, but the people who gonna be with you when you just need to cry, or when you can't even cry, because that's how hard it is. Those are the people you want to hold on to and nurture.
We have time for one more question.
And I'll give a short answer. Yeah, I want to read these 2 paragraphs.
Good evening. So I'm Stephanie. I'm a high school librarian. This is my 6th year as a high school librarian, 28th year in education.
Thank you.
So I have twofold. So one question is, what are your experiences with your influences from libraries and librarians, and as you have grown as an author? But also, I think as a high school librarian, I struggle with building more readers, because of the different struggles and different things that they have in high schools. Although, I looked at my data this year, and it's, my checkout data has went up 86% since last year, but it went from, kind of a low point, and I know we've had some partnerships because I'm in Baltimore County, with Baltimore County Public Library as well. They come out to the school, but if you're just as an author, are there some things that you think that we can do as librarians in order to make reading fun again, because that's the reason we become librarians, because we have this passion for research and literature and reading. And sometimes there's things that are getting in the way of that. And real life gets in the way for a lot of our kids that are struggling with things at home, or even just with balancing schoolwork with reading for fun. So just what are your thoughts about those 2 things?
I think it sounds like you're doing a lot of things right. And I would just encourage you to ask questions of your students. Sometimes we want to have the answers, but we may need to ask a question. What are you interested in? What do you like? Who do you love? What's going on in your world? And whatever those answers are, I would find books that speak to those things so that they're interested in the actual thing I'm giving to them. And trying, not that you do this, but also just trying to not judge and put down this kind of reading over this kind, like graphic novels are not as good as this. Like, let them read, let them experiment and play with words, even with writing. I would introduce poetry. I would have a list this is what I'm reading. The reason why I'm a reader is because my mother modeled reading. she would read her Bible and highlight scriptures and underline and write in the margins. And that is how I learned to be a deep reader. So I think as much as we can model reading and have a variety and let it be maybe a poem, maybe a graphic novel, song lyrics, like I would just encourage them to be readers of the world. But I really believe that the fact that you're asking that question also lets me know you are doing something right. I feel, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I was also in college, I was reading a literacy. Oh, I can't even talk. I was a tutor. And I remember the students were having trouble deciding on what to read. And we used Tupac's Of Rose Groves and Concrete as one of the examples. And I'm thinking about what's happening now with like Kendrick Lamar and Drake and all these things. And it's like, yes, that might seem like not the best connection, but it could be if you turn to them and say, you know, he won a Pulitzer Prize. Like, what does this mean? Let's like use metaphors from this song, or let's find a book. You know, like I don't know. I think I'm just trying to add on to what you're saying. It's like finding these outside or these unconventional like moments to pull kids in and to ask them, allow them to have like more choice in the selection, and not judging if it's not something that you're not unfamiliar with. It's just like just allowing it.
So like one thing that we did during Library Month, there's quizzes out there that you could compare Tupac to Shakespeare lyrics. And so a lot of people get it wrong, actually, you know, when they're comparing it. So,
Let's get updated to Kendrick Lamar. Why not?
And as I look at the book that, you know, and as you're reading some of the different poems and prose, I thought about like, maybe I have to like change some of the clubs that we have. Like maybe like a book club is not enough. Maybe, you know, we can just choose a reading, you know, and because we do have theater and different programs and stuff like that. So, you know, just trying to be a little more creative to bring kids in.
Yeah. You're doing
like,
it.
You have your own poem or read a poem from a book. So
yeah.
Thank you. So we're gonna close.
Yeah, we're gonna close with a reading because I've just been I'm so grateful for you. Thank you for this book. Thank you for just like all of your work, for being so generous with us on the page. We love you, Renee.
I love you too.
Close it out for us.
I love you deep. So we talked about this. What do you tell your child when the world is trying to break them? And this is a letter that Lena writes to her 8-year-old daughter. And she's like, I'm not going to give it to her now, but she's going to need these words one day. Dear Aaliyah, believe the women who are still able to laugh, even after loss and famine and drought and heartbreak. Trust the ones who know how to nurse a wound, who know something about the time it takes for hurting to heal. Believe me when I say you have to hold on to yourself. Keep your mind anchored to what you know to be true. The anchor is me, is Honey, is Aunt Aretha, is every Black woman who came before you and survived. They are holding you too. Their know-how, they're not gonna let nobody turn us around, their loudness, their pride. Believe those voices above all other voices. Believe that it is not your responsibility to make anyone see your worth. You just be every bit of brilliance and beauty you are. Just because they don't believe you, don't mean it's not true. Thank you so much for celebrating with me tonight. Thank you to the library. Y'all have been supporting me from day one. I appreciate you having me. Thank you, thank you.
Yes, thank you all for being here. Again, thank you to the Enoch Pratt Library. This has been absolutely wonderful. Thank you, Renee.
All right. So first, their books still available for purchase outside at Ivy Bookshop. The author and the moderator are going to step off stage. I will open the doors and I'm going to have everybody